I'm running for state legislature as an assemblywoman in the 12th district. So my district starts in East Windsor and Hightstown and goes all the way through Monmouth to Fairhaven, Manalapan, Marlborough, Freehold, all the way over to Fairhaven. I was mayor of Manalapan, as Randy said. Last year I've been a sitting committee woman in Manalapan Township for 5 years now. I'm going to start first by telling you a little bit about my running mate, who unfortunately couldn't be here. He's a high school teacher in Irvington, a challenging high school to be teaching in. Last week he was late to an event because his school went into lockdown when the state police came in and then arrested 6 kids who had handguns. So this is a man who, as Randy and Rick were saying before, has volunteered his time on, he's part of the preservationists out of Middletown. He's New Jersey Clean Ocean Action. He's always stood up and volunteered his time for his community, because ultimately we all live here and we all need to make our homes a better place for everyone. So John, when asked, was more than willing to step up to the plate and join me on the ticket to run for State Assembly this year. My background is a little bit different. I own a small business here in New Jersey. I'm also married with 3 kids. My middle daughter is a sophomore in college, so I can definitely relate to everybody in this room. My oldest daughter is 23. She finished school, and my youngest is 16 in high school. I got involved originally locally in my kids' school, where they were trying to pull together a PTO, and it's just as was said before, you know, if you don't step up to the plate, nobody else is going to. And so we saw that teachers weren't getting gifts holiday time, and kids needed stuff in the classroom, and so a group of us got together, and I did that for about 10 years, and then after 10 years I thought I had had enough, and so I volunteered in my town and went on to zoning board and then the planning board, so you determine what's being built in your town. And I thought, this is very important because I live here, and you know, if you don't pay attention, people will come in and build whatever they want, and traffic backs up, and we've all sat in horrible traffic patterns, and you know, you sit there thinking, who was the genius who didn't see that this was going to happen? So I took an interest in that, and then was tapped to run for the governing body, which I have. There's a saying that all politics is local, and I really think that's very true, because as I'm sure Sean and Amy will address, funding for Brookdale comes out of, a large part of it comes out of the county budget. So it's very important who you vote for Freeholder, because they're controlling the budget for this school to a large extent, and determining what your tuition rates are, what the funding rates are. So is the Assembly and the Senate in terms of how they're funding education, not only for higher education, but also how funding is being done to the K through 12 grades. My focus, I happen to, I was telling Jennifer before, I have a BA in political science. I went to SUNY Albany, but I also have an MBA in finance. And I am a very fiscally conservative Democrat. Most Republicans are very shocked that I'm actually more fiscally conservative than they are. And I refuse to sell out my children's future and load them down with debt for a quick fix now. I don't ever look for a quick fix. I look at a problem and I look to see, how do we solve that problem? And I'll give you 2 examples. One is not financially related, but we have a lake in our town, and we just had, the county came in and they were very helpful in dredging the lake for us. But typically that's what would happen over the past 30, 40 years. The lake would get filled with leaves and silt and trash, and so they'd dredge it, and then it would get filled again. And I turned to our engineer and I said, this is not acceptable to me. You're not fixing the problem, you're putting a Band-Aid on it. So we created, he engineered a sluice box, which is going to catch now all the debris, all the silt, all the leaves, where our DPW guys can go in and clean it out. We've just had the lake restocked by the state. We're putting an aerator in. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts came in, so this was a public-private partnership. They built benches, they built picnic tables, they helped clean up around it. We're renaming the lake Scout Lake instead of Holiday Lake in honor of our scouting community. And we took what was an eyesore in town, and working together, government with the people, we turned it into a beautiful amenity in Manalapan. on the financial side, I can point to, I'm sure you've all read in the paper about the looming debt that's out there and the pension obligations. And on Monday, I sat before the editorial board of the Asbury Park Press, and they were asking me, what are your ideas going forward? What are you going to change if you're elected? And I said, you know, interestingly, with the pension problems, and the pension obligations are huge. The state gave towns an opportunity this year to basically take a pass and not pay their obligation. But that pass came with a price. You're pushing your debt further into the future. You're still going to have to pay it anyway. And you're going to have to pay it at 8%. That was a non-starter for me. So we paid our bills now. But I kept thinking about how do we go around and fix this problem? Because if you go back to the fundamental root of it, people took a job working for the state or the county or local government, and it was lower paying typically than if you went to work for a company, but the benefits were better. So that was the trade-off, and that's how the benefits package started in its infancy. Well, the salaries have sort of caught up to what companies are paying now, but the benefits package is choking everybody. It's the same thing that happened to the big three out in Detroit with the auto industry. So I kept thinking about this, and I thought, you know, the federal government has changed the rules now for Social Security. And if you go onto the Social Security website, you can see that it used to be if you retired at 62, you got your full benefits, and if you earned this much in your lifetime, that's what you would get in a monthly payment. And now they've changed the scale. So if you were born in 1940, you can only retire when you're, I'm just throwing out a number, say you have to be 64, and scaling it all the way down so that you're raising the eligibility date for people to retire. But what you're also doing is saying to them, if you're deciding to retire earlier, you can, but you're going to get less money. And I think that will break part of this logjam of obligation on these pensions, because you've got a lot of workers, government workers, who are retiring at 50, 52, 53, in excellent health, and they go off to do another job, and that's great, and they're collecting a full pension, and it's breaking the back of the rest of the state. So this whole system needs to be revamped. If the federal government can change it with Social Security, I don't know why the state of New Jersey can't take a similar approach. Maybe we have to tweak it slightly, and that's fine, but I think that's the line of thought that we should follow, and that's what I would be an advocate of, because at the end of the day, I don't want my 3 children paying for debts that my generation created. I want them to have the same opportunities in life, to buy a home, the same quality of life, the ability to have fun on the weekends, to travel when they want to buy a home, and not be just overwhelmed by all this debt that the government has created. So with that, I know I ran on a little bit longer, but John's not here, so I got his 5 minutes.